Hello, hello. This is Dina Moore, and welcome to Cult to Freedom. Today, we have a wild story, possibly the best yet. Our guest today is Mo, and this is a wild, wild story. So, we're going to start off with the question: why should our watchers watch this all the way to the end? What is the one thing that you would like them to know the most about the story, the end of the story?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dina. My hope is to help someone out there that, is feeling alone. A lot of times when we go through this experience, it's like, what's wrong with me? Sometimes things can really just get so wild that it's just like, am I the only person that's experienced this? And it can be really isolating and make you feel alone and really down. And so, we all have our story. And I think we all can agree that there's always something out of everyone's story that we can take away that's going to help us, whether it's feeling more connected, or feeling like we're not alone. So I hope that by sharing my story, someone can really feel like they have a community. They're not alone. There's nothing wrong with them. um, and I'm just so happy, I'm living my authentic life finally, after being able to get away from that destructive religion. And I can say that, like, I'm so happy and proud, for example, to be part of the LGBTQ community. One of the main things is that I started discovering afterwards was I didn't have any language, and to just discover that there is actually language around what I had been feeling from, childhood through adulthood, through my marriages. I've learned that I'm non-binary. I'm a queer person. I use they them pronouns. I love people of all genders. I'm in a beautiful relationship with my fiance, who's a woman, and my kids and me have never been happier. Like, she's the best partner I could ever ask for. She accepts us all for who we are, and she's been such a tremendous contributor to not only our happiness but also like chosen family and friends as well. So just, yeah, I know there's, folks out there that are also part of that community, but I feel like maybe there isn't as much exposure for that. And so I feel like I really wanted to come forward and show my face and say, yes, doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, color of your skin, like, we're
Yep.
all beautiful people and we all go through these things and it's completely normal.
And this is a wild story of a human being that was trying to fit in, trying to conform. Nothing goes right. And part of the reason why nothing goes right is because conforming to a restrictive, abusive, oppressive religion crushes your authenticity. So this is a story of authenticity. Is there anything you'd like to share too about maybe something else that you're proud of or surprised of, like maybe with your kids or something like that after post apocalyptic cult?
Yeah, I would say, like, for the kids, they have just blossomed and grown so much. My younger kids in particular. So, they were, present, of course, for like the tail end of my wild story, right? And of course, were affected, but just to see just a few years after making that huge life change, they have had so many opportunities to do things that they just would never have gotten if I still was, in this religion,
Right.
that my older kids, they didn't get, that I didn't get as a kid, and just really shapes your view of the world, right? And so my younger kids in particular, they have so many friends at school. They participate in activities outside of school, like they're in Taekwondo, which is providing opportunities for them to find mentors. They participated in plays at school, and just to be able to discover things that they get excited about, like they love acting and singing, and they're going to be going on to continue to pursue those activities. So I just really think that it's so important for kids to have these opportunities because one thing I'm just continue to recognize is how this impacts your adulthood, and your future relationships. And
Yeah.
so for them, I feel like it's really setting them up to have a really healthy adulthood. And also part of their healthy adulthood is seeing their mom live their authentic life, which of course will encourage them to be themselves and really experience unconditional love, because that's just something that doesn't exist inside of that religion.
Yeah. The example of a parent being able to live their authentic life after the religion, don't make the mistake of thinking that because your kids have partially been raised in the religion, it's too late or the transition's going to be hard. No, seeing their parent live authentically is the best thing that a parent can do for their kids. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm going to turn the platform over to you. Let's start at the beginning. Go for it.
Okay, here we go. Strap in.
Like popcorn. This one's good.
Yeah. I always say this one's for the movies, but it's like, after talking about it out loud, it's like, is it though? Because maybe it's one of those parody movies. I don't know. But yeah, so I guess I'll start with early life. So I was born into the Jehovah's Witness religion through my mother. So she had exposure to the religion a few times as a kid that she had mentioned, but um, you know, parents never took to it. Father definitely did not want to allow it, as far as I recall her story. But she ended up 19, pregnant with my older brother, and she always tells the story of like praying for guidance on what she should teach her child. Like she didn't know what to do, and so she ended up coming into contact with the witnesses, and the rest is history. She got baptized, I believe, when she was 20, somewhere around there. And then I was born. So my father was in the Navy. He never took to the religion. My mom tried, but he never got on board with it, didn't agree with it. And yeah, I mean, I would say definitely that my childhood was tumultuous at best. My parents broke up and remarried like four something times, and probably even more. There were even more so even in between the divorces and remarriages. But yeah, the other like really huge piece of my story is that my family of origin is just super toxic. And so that's been, layers that I've been also kind of peeling back since leaving. But it's like to not only have this, high control, culty religion forming who you are, but then to also have, a highly toxic family of origin. It's just, I start to describe it now as like, I feel like I was kidnapped from myself. Like never had an opportunity to figure out who I am, what I like, what I don't like, and as you know, the religion controls even your thought process, right? So your thoughts, your emotions, we know about the bite model, and it's just so true. Um, and yeah, some other, things that went on was like my mother fully embraced the whole that Proverbs scripture about not sparing the rod. Like she had her, spoons at the meeting that she would write on there that it was the rod of discipline, and just like joke about that with the people in the congregation. And there were a few times she broke those spoons, and then she got tired of breaking them, so she would wrap them in like electrical tape. Or there would be situations where like if we fell asleep, we would have to stand up in the middle of the meeting. So, and she always chose to sit like second row from the front. Like everybody knew that was her row. And so like we fell asleep, had to stand up, right there in the middle of the auditorium, talk going. So just a lot of like, I would say shame and embarrassment, and not to mention like I've had to work through, memories of like being pulled into the second school and like, whipped back there or like in the bathroom. So just like lots of stuff was going on. But at the same time, the people in the congregation really like put my mother kind of on a pedestal, I would say, as like the example of like a single parent, a single witness parent, and how they should be dealing with their kids. And I think by proxy, like we also were put on that pedestal of like, be an example to all the other kids in the congregation. So just a lot of, hard stuff that was going on, hard to really and that really forms, you know, your perception, I guess, of like what your relationship and dynamic should be with your parent. And you just think that that's normal. You think that that's what everyone's, experiencing, and it really just isn't. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
us Jehovah's Witnesses out here listening, whether they're questioning or whatever, we hear these stories and we're like, oh yeah, yeah, because we know that
Mm-hmm.
kid getting hauled into the back rooms about to get their butt beat with a spoon, and that was normal. That was applauded.
Mm-hmm.
That was
It was
excellent,
applauded.
and that's abuse. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
not Jehovah's Witness, understand that this is typical Jehovah's Witness behavior within the congregation of keeping your kids in line. Okay, so where do you
Mm-hmm.
go?
Yeah. So, like I said, a lot of like breaking up, getting back together. So we also moved around a lot. I would say like a lot of my memories are from probably my early teens, I would say, early teens on up. So yeah, like there was drugs and stuff that was going on, like from my father's side, which I kind of learned later. I don't want to get too much into my parents and all their issues, but it was just clear when I also wasn't allowed to really speak with him as a child. And so, like, as an adult, there were a few times that I tried to rekindle that relationship. And, it was just, he had shared some things with me that had gone on. And it was one of those like heart dropping moments of, I didn't even need to think about whether or not he was telling the truth, because these were similar situations that I already had dealt with my mother over the years, and so, it's just, I think he just got really like pushed into escapism and got into the drug scene, unfortunately, and wasn't able to pull himself out. But yeah, just a lot of trauma around all of that, and then rolling into my teens. Um, yeah, just really butted heads with my mom. I would say, how old was I? I started working when I was 14, and my mom pulled me out of school. So I went to public school for middle school, and that's really where I met like a ton of my friends. And that also is kind of like the time frame of like really crucial child development, I would say. And so, of course, you're not allowed to have friends at school. So, I only had the time with them when I was there. And so we ended up moving from that state from one of the breakups. And so when we moved to another state, I ended up working at 14. My mom had decided not to put me in public school for high school, and I homeschooled. And so I ended up, it wasn't really a structured program, I would say, like where I was getting assistance and help. It was, this is back in the day where it was like mail you all the books, do the assignments kind of thing, mail them back, get your
Yeah,
grades and all that kind of stuff. So for the first year that I was homeschooling, didn't really do much, because you're a teenager. And so if you don't have structure, you don't have, what are you going to do? You're going to goof off. And so, but it got to the point where I was also working. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buckle down, get this done. So I actually completed all 4 years of high school in a single year, like a calendar year. So I graduated high school when I was 15,
okay.
and then ended up working full time starting at 16. And that's where like a lot of the headbutting started, I think, like even more so, because now I'm getting exposed to people in the world, right? I'm having exposure other than my parent. And, that's part of, we question things. We're allowed to question things and think and have critical thinking. So as I was getting to know people and sharing certain things, it would be like, that doesn't sound right, or like, for example, like my mom would take almost my entire paycheck, and then I still had to use a portion of it to handle like my own little things, whether, toiletries, whatever, what have you. And so it was like, I'm going to work, but you're taking everything. You're not teaching me anything. So it's like I was an acting adult, but not really, because I was only 16, of course. And so I was just like searching, trying to like get some help to learn how to, be responsible, be an adult, because there was like nothing left. Like it was just known, like I'm not paying for you to go to school. So like that wasn't a thing. And so, things really escalated, and I ended up being kicked out when I was 16. And then ended up being, basically entrapped by a predator. I ended up online and went out to see this person. Since I was kicked out, I was like, I didn't really know what to do or where to go. And so went out there, ended up being a predator. I was stuck there for some time. And I remember calling my mom to ask for help getting out of the situation. And she told me to call the local Kingdom Hall. And so I'm like looking up the Kingdom Hall in the phone book, gave a call. No one would help. There were people that answered, but no one would help. And so anyway, she ended up paying for me to fly back home. And it just got even worse, there was no like, and I can understand now, especially from like raising my kids. It's like, and this is where unconditional love comes in, right? It's like you can be so like upset or disappointed with your child, but you still want what's best for them. You still want to help guide them if they're willing. And even if they're not willing, you still want to, do your damnedest to help them. None of that happened. It was just more of like, look at all the reproach you've brought upon me, the reproach you've brought upon Jehovah. You've embarrassed me in front of the Kingdom Hall because, again, it was so toxic and narcissistic. It's like everything was about appearances, you
Yeah.
know? Um, but like, funnily enough, like she had already spread like everything from her perspective. So she told everyone that I ran away, which wasn't what happened at all. And, all the other things that she had told. And this information even had like gone across state lines from like friends that she had that like moved away. And
Were
so,
you
but
were you baptized at this point?
yeah, I got baptized at 12. So my older brother and I got baptized at the same time. So I was baptized at 12.
So you're baptized at 12, 16, you're graduated and you end up kicked out of the house. And
Hmm.
instead of fulfilling the legal obligations of a mother, your mom kicks you out. Okay, so now you're back. So what happens once you're back?
Yeah. So, like I said, it was a lot of shame and guilting. And, I didn't feel at all that she cared about what happened to me when I was holed up in this place, which there's trauma that happened there as well. And so it was just like basically you have to live with me, but leave me alone kind of thing. Like she didn't use those words, but that was the environment. And also, I don't know how familiar some folks might be with narcissism, but it's like I'm going to basically destroy any relationships that you have, anyone that might be on your side. I'm going to eradicate that so that you have no one but me. And then I'm going to treat you like garbage, basically, and keep you mentally down so that you feel like you need my approval. Like this is the kind of dynamic that it was. So it's like
Yeah.
any friends that I had weren't talking to me. I'm at the
What was
Kingdom
the
Hall.
congregation's response?
Yeah, so the congregation's response, just like for me, like when I came back, it was just like a lot of whispers and stares that happen. And then, but still, like no one was really talking to me. So it was just like obvious. And then my brothers weren't talking to me either. So it was like clear that some conversations were had. And then, so I just started focusing on work. I found another job, became friends with this one person that I was working with. We just clicked really well, and I would like spend time at her house with her grandparents and stuff. And we did what teenagers do. We were like hanging out at the mall and like, and this is someone from work, so like not a witness or anything. So, and ended up getting invited to a party, and then like one thing led to another, and I ended up, having sex with this guy, and so which I didn't say anything to my mom about at the time. I was just like, whatever, like this is my life. I just have to like pretend to like go along and deal with all this like discipline on the one side and this maltreatment, and on the other side I'll just do what I can to find happiness. So I didn't really feel a need to like share that with her or anyone else for that matter. But then I ended up getting like really sick and I had no idea what was going on. And I was
Whatever
like,
could it be?
whatever could it be? I had no idea. Like I'm a 17-year-old at this point, you know. Never in my wildest dream would I think that I was pregnant. But yeah, so I just like started getting really sick and throwing up. And my mom just like saw me one morning and was like, yeah, well, you're probably pregnant. And so I was just like, what? There's no way. But ended up going to Planned Parenthood and like confirmed that I was pregnant. And like even from there, it was like I have a distinct memory of like the person there trying to talk to me, to give me like my options, give me things to think about. And like it was just shut down. It was like there, so I didn't even know anything other than, okay, I'm pregnant. So like, yeah, this is it. I'm
Now
having a
you're a
kid.
mother. There's no
Now
choice.
I'm a mother. Yeah. And of course, like no understanding whatsoever of how that's going to impact my life. But yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. And so of course, now that I'm pregnant, like my mother went and reported to the elders that this thing happened. And let me tell you, the that judicial hearing, so like the stories that are online of people's experiences with that, it is not a lie. Like it's all 100% true. The types of questions that they ask you are extremely inappropriate. And to be 17, in this room with these like three old guys asking me all kinds of just inappropriate questions was like, what, why are you asking? And then my mother didn't go in there. So it was
This
like,
is another form of child abuse. This is
yeah,
100% another form of child abuse because with the Jehovah's Witnesses, when they decide that that somebody under 18, well, anybody actually, has committed a, sin,
mm,
it's not enough just to say I did this, I slept with somebody, which they could leave it at that, but they don't. They want to
mm-hmm,
know upside down, downside up, how many times did you, I mean, the in probably for at least an hour. In
mm-hmm,
some cases, I've known it to be even 3 and 4 hours of interrogation. So here you have an innocent young person, probably one of their first intimate experiences, and they're having to share it with old guys, like you say.
mm-hmm.
It makes
Yeah,
it makes what should have been a beautiful experience completely full of shame, disgust, hiding, and the impacts of that, I just cannot state it enough. Okay, I don't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
yeah, no, you said it perfectly. I mean, that's exactly what it was. And I remember going into it like I just didn't care at this point. I was just like, if I get disfellowshipped, I get disfellowshipped. Like this is not feeling good anyway. Like what reason do I have to like want to stay in this congregate? Like none of this is good. So I just
Right.
went into it like with I don't care, and I did answer their questions. But you're exactly right. It was like how many times did you enjoy it? Like all kinds of just and even more just like explicit and inappropriate things. And so, yeah, my mom just like told me to go in there, and then they went out and did their deliberation or whatever. Came in, they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna disfellowship you," and I was like, "All right." So, um, at that point, more of the shame and like you're gonna have to face like all of this embarrassment and really feel the brunt of what you've done. So it was like I wasn't even feeling well like the night that they were gonna announce it, but I had to go. Like I was forced to go, had to sit there. They made the announcement, and like the gasps and like turns and everything was just so insane. um but then like when my belly started growing, it was like even more of like gasping. And yeah, I wasn't happy, of course, but like at the same time though, I was like falling in love with this baby that was growing inside of me, and There was like maybe one person that would like smile at me every now and then, but no one, you know. And then I just to talk about the reinstatement. So, I sent the letter in for requesting reinstatement. It was like 6 months or so after being disfellowshipped, and like no one responded. Like I got zero response. And so I'm very much a doer. And so I decided to go to the book study. This was like back when we had the three meetings a week. So I went to the book study of one of the elders that I met with, sat through the meeting, waited after to see if he was going to approach me. He didn't. So I decided to go approach him and ask if they got the letter. He's like, yeah, we got it, but I don't think you're ready. And then he changed it to say, we don't think you're ready. Which,
That was
really
Holy
just
Spirit
upset me.
speaking right there.
Yeah, that's Holy Spirit. So I was just like, it really upset me because, the other two that I had met with, like, really liked me and like knew me for years. And I went after to another meeting to talk to the other brother who was the presiding overseer, is what they call them. And he was just like so sad. Like he looked like he was going to cry almost. He was just like, we just couldn't come to a unanimous decision. And so we couldn't move forward with the reinstatement, but just hang tight, like give it another, few months and then you'll be good, basically. It's like he was saying.
Which, I know they say that. I know they say that, like, no big deal. Just wait another 6 months without
Yeah.
realizing that here you are, you're pregnant or a new mom. You're going to 3 meetings a week where you get ready, you sit there by yourself in the back
Mhm.
row with no one that speaks to
Yeah.
you. Every meeting is like agony. So when they're
Hmm.
like, oh, yeah, no big deal, just wait a couple months and everything will be fine. The lack of
Hmm.
empathy for that, because I've been there. It's
Yeah.
heart-wrenching. Like, every meeting is, like, cringing
Yeah, it's
your
like your skin's crawling and like you're, yeah. And not to mention, again, like the environment at home was also very isolating because like I wasn't allowed to eat at the dinner table. I had to go off and eat somewhere else. Like my siblings weren't talking to me. Um, and yeah, it wasn't good, and definitely not a good environment either way for a pregnant person to be dealing with. Like having your child grow under those circumstances,
right.
like you've talked about the book The Body Keeps the Score. Like we store so much in our bodies, and so just imagine having all of that negative energy while
Turmoil.
there's a child growing, you know um, so yeah, it really just wasn't great. And so I did wait the 6 months. I put the letter in, got reinstated, and might as well have stayed DF'd because no one spoke to me. No one warmed up. Like they would even go as far as like coming over to see my child, but would completely ignore the fact that I was right there. Like it was just not great. It wasn't a great feeling,
And at this
you
point,
know?
you're still only what, 18, 19, maybe?
Yeah, 18. Yep. So I had my daughter and then turned 18 a couple months after that,
Okay.
which is like
Okay.
when I got
So
reinstated.
so now you're reinstated, you've got this little baby. Where does your story go from here?
Yeah, so from here, I did some time of like trying to fit into what was expected. I even signed up to regular Pioneer for a hot second, but just was never feeling it. And mind you, throughout all of this time, there were so many moments where I would just question this religion and be like, this just doesn't feel right. Or, like with the whole reinstating thing, it's like, so you're telling me that Jehovah's Holy Spirit couldn't make a decision. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, so I'm already like questioning a lot of the beliefs, the behaviors, and then to like be in this environment that's supposed to be my only community that has me on the outside. So I was like, you know what? I have experience working. I'm taking care of my kid. And mind you, my mom also asked me to move out when I was 18. She said she got tired of listening to a crying child. So it was like, okay. But because I already had those several years of like working full time And being, a professional in the working world, I was like, fine. Like I had a job, went and found an apartment, and just moved on with my life. And I decided at a certain point that I didn't want to go to meetings anymore. I wasn't getting anything out of it. It was torture. So I just went inactive and
Okay.
decided to stop going. And then during that time, I met this guy through work, was not a witness, and we got married. But it turned out, you know, he was basically like the male version of my mom. And, so that whole saying about like daughters marrying their fathers, it was kind of like the reverse, right? Like, and there was just so much. And it just, again, like life ignorance, like I didn't know that my husband was undocumented before we got married. It wasn't until like trying to get him on the lease when he moved in that I learned that information. I learned that he had 3 other kids I didn't know about, in a whole nother country, like at the 4 year mark of our marriage. So it was just a lot of just craziness happening. He was emotionally, physically, sexually abusive, like just was not a great person. But at the same time, all of these behaviors and experiences were things that I had experienced in childhood: emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. So it was like, okay, this is normal. Like, this is what I'm
Exactly.
used to.
Exactly. You know what? I just did a video about that the other day about how the religion itself is narcissistic. It attracts narcissists and it grooms you to think that that is
Hmm.
normal. And then
Yeah.
you add, getting baptized at the age of 12, homeschool, hello, homeschool. The lack
Hmm.
of life experience sets us up for so much naiveness,
Hmm.
poor decision making because we lack information, you know? You
Yeah.
know, people might hear this story and not understand, why'd you marry this guy? Or, why yeah, hello,
Mm.
cult, cult brainwashing. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And to add the extra layer of having that toxic family already being in a narcissistic family
Exactly.
of origin, right? So, yeah, like I've heard and seen, different opinions about whether or not the religion is narcissistic, but it's like it for sure is a hiding place for narcissism.
Right.
It's this whole thing of like, we think we're better than the people in the world. We have this information no one else has. So it just really like feeds
Yep.
this whole identity and belief system of being superior to others and mistreating and looking down on other people.
Hmm.
So it just really wasn't good. And so this, I just basically repeated the script. We
Yeah.
broke up, we got back together several times over the years. It ended up being an almost 10-year marriage situation with him.
So that was you were inactive during those 10 years?
Yeah,
And then at some point you go back.
yeah. So, yeah, I was, what's the term? I was POMI during that time, physically out, mentally in, right? So I still had like all of these thoughts of like, I'm going to be destroyed, all these different things that was going on. And it was really, really hard. Like, even though I had found, like back in the day, they had like what do you call those online boards,
Hmm.
where folks, so there was like a forum, I think is what they call it. So I found like this JW forum, XJW forum, and I was able to see people like on there,
Hmm.
talking about what their experiences, and I could really identify, but it just didn't click for
Didn't
some
click.
reason.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't ready or whatever happened. There still was this huge
Hmm.
like guilt thing of like, ignore everything, only listen to what we tell you and what you know. And by that time, like the brainwashing was there. So it was even my thoughts, even though I wasn't physically there,
Yeah.
I wasn't
So
reading all the
this is
literature.
this is so common. I hear this all the time that people go inactive, but not fully embracing and living their authentic life in the world either.
Yeah.
So you're kind of
Yeah.
out, you're kind of free, but you're hostage to the
Yeah.
beliefs, the structure, the fears, the brainwashing. So
Yeah.
it's like you're in this limbo world where you're not a witness, you're in the world, but you're not. you're not thriving either. So you go back, then what?
Yeah. So I ended up going back. Let's see, where do I want to go with that? So, yeah, so this is where the second marriage kicks in.
This is where it
So,
gets juicier.
yeah, my JW elder husband. So, yeah, so things are still like super strained with my mother during that time I was out. But then, like, she randomly came to like my door one day saying that she was going to marry this guy over in another country. And she knew that I had spoken with my biological father and knew that he had other kids. So she was coming, asking me to write a letter that she could use to prove that she was free to remarry. Like, hadn't been a part of my life to, like, be supportive through this situation, like with my first husband. Just a lot of like guilt and shame. Same thing with my brothers. Like, I remember one time like trying to talk to her about how I felt alone and that I really needed her. And she just wasn't having it. It ended up being where she told me that I had upset her and my brothers so much during that time frame that I owed them an apology and explanation. And I ended up apologizing to them.
Of course you did. All right, so let
Yeah.
me explain this ridiculousness. Let me explain this ridiculousness. In the Jehovah's Witness religion, there are there's only one reason you're allowed to get a divorce and remarry, and that is if you can prove that the other person has been unfaithful sexually. So in this case, where the wife, the mother is a Jehovah's Witness and the father is not, she still needs to prove that he's out there, doing his thing so that mom can get remarried to somebody else and not get in trouble by the congregation or anything.
Yeah.
So instead of her doing her own adult responsibility, she goes to the child and says, "Child, go see what your sexual activity of the father is doing."
It's,
That's the
yeah.
warpness. That's the warpness that we go. And
Hmm.
then you're nice enough to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it was
Good
still
job.
this feeling of like, yeah, yeah. It was just still this feeling of like really wanting to get her approval and any
Yeah.
opportunity that I had to do something that she wanted. I,
Mhm.
in my mind, was like, it'll make her happy. This is what she wants. Finally, she'll love me and accept me. Things will start getting better. And mind you, I'm now at the count of 4 kids at this point because I had, my second daughter with my first husband. And then through all the like breakups and get back together, we ended up getting remarried when I got pregnant with my twins. So, which was another surprise. Like, I didn't even know I was pregnant with twins until like late in the pregnancy. So, and even that was like a complete joke. Like, and the religion played a part because I was like, oh my God, I'm pregnant again and I'm not married. This was after we had divorced the first time. Um, I can't get disfellowshipped again. Like, I just cannot go through that again.
Yeah.
So, and there's no way that my mom's not going to know that am having another child.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting remarried, and like, it was a joke. Even the actual ceremony thing, I just kind of had this like sullen feeling, looking down, like this is such a mistake, but I have to do this kind
Yep.
of thing. So yeah, I ended up having
Totally get it.
twins end up having the twins. And like, yeah, so I wrote the letter for my mom, like she wanted it. And but yeah, it didn't really rekindle communications that much. But some months went by after she left, went and got married. She just called me out of the blue one day at like 3 a.m. my time to tell me that there was this JW elder guy over there in the same country that she had been showing my picture to and pictures of the kids, and he's
And he
interested.
needs a wife. He needs a wife.
He's interested. And of course, like, I'm
You're
thinking,
gonna score because he's an elder.
yes. Well, it was like when I finally like divorced my first husband, like not that much time went by. It probably was like a not even like a full year. And I was just like, well, this is finally my opportunity, right? Like, I've been told I'm damaged goods. No one's gonna want me because I have kids. So not only am, like Jehovah's really coming through for me, like he's forgiving me and I just need to go back, and this brother wants me. Finally, I'll have like a good head of the household. Like
A
everything's going to be
spiritual head
great.
for your
A
children.
spiritual head, like everything will be fine. This is why I haven't been happy, is because I haven't been doing things Jehovah's way, right? Like all that.
So should I cheer or should I vomit right now?
Yeah, vomit a little bit in your throat because it was just another situation of like 2 days after we got married. Like, I'm gonna skip all the
Okay, so wait a second, wait
shenanigans.
a second, wait a second. You marry this person that you barely know based off of the reputation of him being an elder.
Yeah, based off of that and the reputation that my mother and her new husband had shared with me, that he had kids of his own, that he was raising alone. So I was like, oh, okay, so he gets the whole single parent dynamic. He is trusting in Jehovah and like all his needs are being met. He's an elder, like all these things. And of course, all the like, you're going to have to be a good example of the congregation, like all these. Anyway, I was just like, okay, this could be really good. So we ended up dating online, emails and calls and things. And then I went to the place to see him. And like one of the funniest parts about this whole thing is we had what I thought was an engagement party. Turns out it was a traditional wedding ceremony according to his traditions. Yeah. And I had no
This is
idea.
I'm sorry, this is inappropriate laughter.
No, it's cool. It's comical. This is like one of those like parody parts, right? It's like I had no idea because they speak another language over there. So I was trusting my mother and her husband who spoke the language, right?
And
They
he's
had
an
been
elder,
living
so
there.
of course he's
And he's
trustworthy.
an elder. Yeah, of course. So like, yeah, no, it was a traditional wedding ceremony. Had no idea. And so
Congratulations.
yeah, like I had no idea when I left there. I was like married according to traditions. And so like things actually got really weird because he started asking me for money, and it really made me uncomfortable because I'm a single parent, like you're asking me for money. But I did it, and then when I things escalated and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. Let's break up. This isn't working. He started
You
threatening
can't,
me.
you're married.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to the elders like in your congregation and blah 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 blah. So I ended up going through with it. He came, we got married, and like
So he
literally
came to the States.
he came to the States, got married, moved into my house with the kids, and literally 2 days later, switch flipped. Like he was so just abusive, just like yelling and screaming and shoving me up against walls. Like one time he hurt me so bad, like my whole arm was swollen and I couldn't really work. And my coworker noticed. And and the elders were aware of this throughout the years. I was married to him for like just over 4 years. And
Wait
throughout
a
those
second.
years,
He gets reappointed as an elder in your congregation, right?
no, so that's funny. He was trying so hard. But like once all of the chaos started happening, I started talking to my mother and being like, "Mom, like all this stuff is happening. You're not going to believe this. Like he's not doing the things he should be doing. He's actually like really abusive and unkind." And that's when the floodgates open where she's like, "Oh yeah, well, he stole money from us before. Like we didn't want to tell you this, but like he stole money and he wasn't even an elder by the time he got there. He had lost his privilege
And you
for,
don't even know.
yeah. And so it was a hot
That's
mess. And
false
so
advertising.
it's definitely false advertising. Okay. I need some compensation. But yeah, I mean, it was bad. And, she just ended up telling me, well, in the new system, is this going to really matter? Like you need to find your own happiness, figure out a way to be happy, like with your
It's a
kids or
threefold
whatever.
cord. If you
Yeah.
pray
It's
and
a three
ask with
factor.
Jehovah, you're all going to be good.
Yeah, exactly. And the elders were aware of the abuse. He even started like messing around with some coworker of his, and he even brought her to the Kingdom Hall to try to like prove that there was nothing going on. It was so comical and outrageous. But in the end, the elders just ended up telling me that I needed to be a submissive wife. I need to like apply Bible principles, like all these things. So it's like all this stuff was going on. It was terrible. I felt trapped. I had no idea what to do because now it's like he's a witness. He's an elder. Like at least with the other one, I was like, okay, well, he's not in the truth. So this is what's going on. No. So
Right.
now I just feel utterly trapped. Don't know what to do. What's wrong with me? Because things should be fine, right?
Yeah.
And
You're doing things
so,
Jehovah's way. Everything should be great.
yeah, yeah. And so things started to escalate. There was one situation where it just really blew up. And I just made a decision at that moment. I was like, oh, this just cannot continue. And I went and I hired a lawyer, and the lawyer like really helped me out. He was just like, you know what, Mo, like you need whatever you need to do, if you need to go pray about it or whatever. But once you make your decision, stick to it. Like get a strong spine and stick to your decision. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen these situations. And as soon as those elders in your congregation find out, they're going to try to change your mind. They might even like try to scare you, but do not budge on your decision. And sure enough, that's what happened. So like I didn't go home and pray about it. I was like, no, I know from my prior experiences, I'm going to use my head and not my emotions and say, I need to get out of this situation, period. And I know that I'll be okay. And so I walked right over to the courthouse, and I actually ended up getting a restraining order and had him forcibly removed from the home. And I contacted the elders
Good
and I
for
let them
you.
know. And I let them know. And they just completely disregarded the restraining order. And he was popping up at meetings. This was the time during COVID, like post COVID, we were still doing Zoom meetings. And they just completely disregarded it. Him popping up on the during the meetings when he wasn't supposed to be there. He already had moved to another city, but he was just trying to taunt me and was completely violating it, contacting me on the phone, like all kinds of things. But yeah, anyway, it just got so wild with the elders. One time they like had a meeting with me telling me that, threatening to discipline me if I went
Yeah.
through with the divorce.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that right there that gave me what I needed to start looking online to figure out if there was anyone else dealing with such a crazy scenario. Because I thought to myself, you're going to punish me. You're going to punish the victim for trying to get to safety. Now, I know for a fact that that is not right.
So but it's not even just you as a, I mean, although you as a victim is bad enough, but
And
you
my
got
kids.
kids.
And my
You got
kids.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is victim blaming.
Mm-hmm.
I went through the exact same thing when I finally had to go to the elders about the domestic violence that I was in. I had a black eye. They'd already seen it and everything like that. He left, but then all of a sudden it's my responsibility to reconcile. Like I'm the one
Mm-hmm.
that's got to fix everything. Like
Yeah.
I was the one that suffered the consequences too. That is
Yeah.
so, so, so typical of this religion. So I'm going to speak to the audience right now. If you are in a situation where you are in danger, your children are in danger, protect yourself, please. Don't let it escalate. You've got two people right here in front of you that we've been through it, and you deserve to keep yourself safe. The legal responsibility, or the legal authorities, they can
Mm-hmm.
do that for you, and the congregation's not. The
Mm-hmm.
congregation doesn't care about, bruises or anything like that. They care about their
Yeah.
reputation. They do not care about you. So you got two advocates here that are telling you, be safe, please. Okay, so
Yeah.
then now what happens?
Yeah, so that really gave me the impetus I needed to go online and start trying to research and figure out what was going on, because at this point it just felt so wild.
Right.
Like all of the religious stuff and all those questions, like that's one thing. But to actually have some people that are supposed to be your shepherds and like taking care of you, and kids are involved, and they're telling me that I'm going to be punished somehow, once again, because I'm getting to safety, that just did not click for me. And I mean, granted, I was like shaking in my boots when I opened
Oh
up my
yeah.
computer. Like I was actually shaking, and I was just like, I don't care. Even though I'm afraid, I'm still going to do it. And so I did. I went on to YouTube, and sure enough, I found so many people that were sharing all of these stories. And it's just like, oh my goodness, you know. And then I heard about the book Crisis of Conscience, and I got that and I read it in like 2 days. And once I read that book, the light like switched that right off. Like I was like, oh my God, now I have no reason to feel guilty about any of this. All of the questions and things, times that it felt not right, validated, absolutely
Yep.
validated. And it literally was
Absolutely
just
right.
like a switch in my brain.
Mhm.
And I just started, I never went back to a meeting after that.
Mhm.
And I just started focusing on me and the kids and my life outside of that, and whatever that meant at the time I didn't know, but I was willing to go through that and figure
Right.
it out, as opposed to staying in this whole dynamic. And so yeah, like later that year I decided to disassociate from the religion.
Excellent. Excellent.
And yeah, so this is after like learning about the Australian Royal Commission, like all of these things that happen. So then it was like, no, I have my own experience. I have the experiences of others. I came across the Critical Thinkers channel, and that really like pushed me to start thinking hard. And I started doing research in the own publications, right? So it was just like so clear, all the holes, all the falsity of it, and it was just a switch. And I was like, I'm good. Like I don't need to, I don't need to feel guilty about this anymore, you know.
Mhm.
And then being in therapy and like being able to understand all of the dynamics has really been an eye opener.
Mhm.
And yeah, but I would not change a thing, because you know, if it didn't happen, I'd probably still be in the religion, right? Like wish
Mhm.
that I didn't have to, my
Mhm.
kids didn't have to go through all that. But
Yeah.
it's like where I am right now is night and day. Like I left 3 years ago, night and day. I've done so much in the last, even just the first year, than I had ever done in my entire life, you know.
Mhm.
And as far as decision making goes, like things are just going so well, you know, trusting myself and my own intuition about like connections with people and like what feels good, what doesn't feel good. It's just,
Authenticity.
yeah, and it's just so amazing and such a wonderful experience, um, where I am now.
Okay. So can you speak just for a second to the LGBTQ community?
Yeah.
Community. How has that vocabulary, how has that knowledge, how has that unleashed the authentic you? How has that enhanced your life?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good thing to bring up, because, you know, I had throughout my life like these moments where I would be like attracted to, you know, females, males, like, but it just I couldn't figure out what was going on. But I feel like the pull was more towards women. And, you know, I also just never really felt like I clicked with men. Like there was just something missing, you know, and it just never felt right, quite right. Like I had to just wear a mask is really what it felt like. But then, like, once I started, part of my discovery was like, I just started looking up videos and information on like these emotions I was having, these feelings. And that's when I started to find out about non binary. And it's like, whoa, like that was just such a huge milestone for me to
Right.
learn about being non binary, what that can look like, what that can feel like. And then embracing use of they them pronouns just felt so whole to me.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then like meeting my fiance, like she is just, yeah, I mean, it was just like fireworks and sparkles and all the things like they show on the movies, you know. And it was just like, this is me, like
The
this is,
SJW husband didn't do that.
you know. I tried and I tried, you know. I was doing my personal
I
studies
know, I know, I know.
for me. It just wasn't coming through. But it's like, yeah.
Okay, so whoever might be out there watching this, how many of us have buried our own authenticity, trying to fit into that box, trying to be the peg that fits into the hole that they say that you're supposed to fit into? And you know what? You're just not praying hard enough. You're just not trying hard enough. And you are reaping what you sow. And this is all your fault. And you know what? That is all bullshit. Maybe the reason why nothing is going right is because you haven't embraced authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know who you are because you've been told who you
Yes.
are and who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, what final words of wisdom might you have for whoever's listening?
Yeah, I guess I would say, those little feelings and thoughts that you're having, don't ignore them. They're actually your true self that has been preserving you for years. Listen to that and just be open. Be open. Now I question anytime I have like a knee jerk opinion about something. I question myself, like, is this what I actually believe? Is this what I actually think? Or is this just some old programming? So just being open to question anything, being open to experience things. One of the biggest parts of my healing has been some of the plant medicine journeys. Like that has been tremendous and really just got me on a spiritual pathway, I would say, and just really recognizing just how awesome we are as human beings and the power that we do hold within ourselves, and
Yeah.
taking that power back and owning it and nurturing it. So listen to that little voice. Don't ignore it. If there's a voice that's telling you something's wrong, something's wrong. If there's a voice that's telling you this is not the right religion, listen to that and find out information, expand that information so that you can make a good decision for yourself and for those that you love that are with you.
Okay. That was beautifully put. Thank you very much. And I love our tragedy to triumph stories because mine has its own shares of plot twists and oh my goodness moments too. But I really want to point out that look at how beautiful this life is. Look at how wonderful your life is. Look at you smile. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. And your kids are able to thrive and you're able to have an authentic life in 3 years, you said?
3 years.
3 short years. So,
Yeah.
yes, getting out sucks. There's no way we can minimize that.
Mm-hmm.
But put your mind to it, get therapy. I cannot emphasize that enough. This isn't just the wrong religion. This is like systematic abuse and systematic brainwashing. So it's not just like, something we did on Sundays. This was our lifestyle. Get help. It will accelerate your progress. We spent maybe decades in the religion. We don't
Yeah.
have time to wait to take our time to heal. We need a rocket ship to heal. And the plant medicines, therapy absolutely, absolutely skyrockets that. Thank you. Thank you so much for being brave enough to share your story.
Of
Well,
course.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I would like to tell everybody too, please leave some comments. Leave some comments down there. Please do a like, a thumbs up, subscribe, and feel free to also, let me put my email up here really quick. If you have a story that you would like to share, please send me an email because our stories matter. Stories make people feel connected. There is somebody that's sitting out here that's just like me, that's just like Mo, that is just like whatever other stories that we're having out there. And they help us know that you're not crazy. You're absolutely not crazy.
Yeah.
Listen to yourself because here we are telling you we've been there and we've done that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I will talk to you
Thanks.
all soon.